Welcome to RePlay Magazine's podcast, where we'll dive into the legends and interesting stories within the world of what we call coin-op entertainment. That's games and amusement machines you find in arcades, fun centers, bars, restaurants, and beyond. RePlay's covered this business for 50 years and is joining forces with industry veteran and former association president Randy Chilton. He is Chief Revenue Officer for National Entertainment Network, owned by Japanese amusement giant Kittleton Genda. And now, here's Randy and this month's RePlay podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our monthly RePlay podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of visiting with Eugene Jarvis, co-founder of Raw Thrills. It's a fascinating story, beginning with his days at Atari, Williams, Bally-Midway, then to Raw Thrills. He throws in a few colorful stories along the way. If you're in the coin-op business, no doubt he's made you a lot of money over the years with his hit games, one right after another. It's our first PG-rated podcast, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Get ready for some laughs as I visit with Eugene. Enjoy the podcast. All right. Hey, everyone. Today we're talking to Eugene Jarvis. You played his games. You know his name. He's probably made you a lot of money, president and co-founder of Raw Thrills. So, hey, we're here to interview industry legends, and there's none bigger than you. So thanks for taking the time, Eugene.
Hey, my pleasure, Randy.
Where do we find you today? You in Chicago? Is that where you live?
Chicago. You know, in my office, it's kind of a mess. So I changed my background. I guess I don't know where I am really.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, hey, I want to cover quite a few things here, but we had Nolan Bushnell on here just a few weeks ago. And he was talking about his whole time at Atari. I think there's some overlap here. Is that correct? You were at Atari.
I was there. And I think it was maybe about a year and a half back in like 77, 78. When because Nolan, he ended up, he was selling the company to Time Warner at that time.
Right.
And so I think he sold it, and then he kind of, I don't know, after some point they had some disagreement or something, and he kind of peaced out for a while. So, but there was a window there that, I was working, no one would come down. I was working in the pinball programming department, and I was, doing my code and doing the sounds and stuff. And every now and then he would come down and play the pinball games, and, had some very spaced out remarks, I remember he was like, he wanted to get some like psychologist in to, to evaluate the sound effects in the game or something. And I was like, okay. And he kind of just, he had some just wild ideas, amazingly imaginative guy. But a lot of it, you just kind of like, he'll forget about this, the next time he comes by. So this is not an action item. Yes.
That's pretty good. So were you there? Was that during, obviously Nolan was there. Was that the Steve Jobs, Wozniak era as well? Or did you overlap with them, or was that later?
No, I think they were gone. I think I might've gotten Steve Jobs' desk because it really smelled like really bad foot odor, So that was the legend there, but
that's hilarious.
But I saw Steve. Actually, I saw him like a year or two before then at this. I was a member of the Homebrew Computer Club.
That's one of my questions. So please tell us about the Homebrew Computing Club.
Yeah, and so it was I don't know. It was like 20, 30 guys that were just totally into building their own microcomputers at that time. And there wasn't an IBM PC. There wasn't an Apple. There was no real standard. And so there was, a number of little companies making hardware and different guys. It was kind of like almost like a hot rodding scene, where, you get the new RAM board and, some guy'd come in and, I got like, 8 kilobytes of RAM, man, this is awesome, And then you go, well, what are you going to do with that? Like, well, you don't understand. I got 8 kilobytes of RAM, man. It's like, it's cool. And, but it was a lot of pioneering work in like video systems and video cards. And this was, there was this a bus called I think it's called the standard of kind of an early standard of hobbyist computers. I guess based on forget Altair. It was the Altair 8008 or something, or 80. I guess maybe 8080. I forget what the hell it was, but and then so it was the SS100 bus, and so you could get different boards to put in it, and it was kind of early rendition of like an IBM PC, which came along later. And so there's a lot of different cool video cards and sound boards, and boards to run your cassette drive. You could store things on your cassette drive, or there was, I guess, paper tape, which is a big deal, teletypes and paper tape and all that crap. And but it was fun, kind of pioneering. And one day the Jobs and Wozniak show up, and they're like Birkenstocks and T-shirts, and they were showing off their new board, a single board computer, the Apple I. And it was pretty impressive, but you still needed, you need to buy a keyboard, you need to buy all these other things to you need to get a TV set, you need to get some kind of storage, drive. And so it was not really that practical, but it was a great pioneering single board computer. I think it was for $666. I guess that foreshadowed maybe where we are today, but it was pretty cool. But we were like, yeah, it's okay. It doesn't have 16 kilobytes of RAM. It doesn't. Like, this is kind of stupid. And so there was all controversies about it, but that was their first product, which was a semi-success. But then obviously they went on to create a true consumer PC, which was the Apple II.
And so that all came out of this home brew club that you started talking about.
Yeah, that's certainly the Apple I. And then after a few months, they kind of, I think they got some funding from some venture capitalist guys, and went out and made a real computer, the Apple II. So, but if you, I wish I had bought an Apple I. I think it's now worth like $500,000 or something for that board.
Yeah, that probably about like what kind of like on one of your original Defender units, probably pretty darn valuable as well. That was your claim to fame. That was your big one, right? Back in the day.
That was the biggest game. I did my first and biggest game. I've been working the last like 45 years trying to make a better game. I'm still working on it. But I think a nice Defender is probably worth $3 or $4 grand or something. Yeah. Do
you have one in your house? I was wanting to know that. Do you have a Defender in your house? Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah. I got one. I play it now. I mean, that game is my reflexes are my scores are falling.
No longer high score.
But it's it's a real challenge. I love to play it now and then. I'm really more addicted to my game Robotron, which yeah, I enjoy kicking in the coin door on that one.
Great games. I remember them well. We bought lots of them. So, hey, we need a little history lesson here. Yeah. So you were at Atari, and then there was the Midway, and then there was the Bally-Midway, and then you went into Raw Thrills. Walk us through that chronology and how that happened, because I understand the leap into Raw Thrills was not as obvious as it looks to be in hindsight.
Yeah. Well, just to get historically, so I worked at Atari for a couple of years, and then went back to, and I was in the pinball thing. Unfortunately, Atari pinball games were not very reliable. It's kind of the classic case of, the new tech guy. We're going to redefine the entire industry. Everything they do in Chicago is complete bullshit. And, we don't need any of that crap. And, of course, their games, they put the board in the bottom of the game and all the screws fell out on it and sorted it out. and the displays overheated, and it was some terrible piece of hardware. Sometimes it would literally catch on fire, and
Oh no.
it was. They had this display, and they put the display rather than like in the back box. They had it down in the lower arch area, which is right next to the player. I guess the thought was you're watching the play field, and then you just glance over to your score. It's maybe more convenient than looking at a back box. And but they put the display, and it was these high voltage plasma displays, which were kind of the thing in those days. I mean, they looked beautiful, but they had no like cooling vents or anything. So the thing would just fry itself slowly.
Oh no.
So anyway, I was working with this guy named Steve Ritchie, who
yes, famous.
Who was in the proto. He was the head of the proto shop, and he wanted to be a designer, and so he created this. He would drop these play fields in his at night and on weekends and stuff. And so I got to work on his first game, Airborne Avenger. It was probably the first hit game for Atari.
Wasn't that a wide body?
Yeah, they were all wide body. And,
I remember that.
But I had, I did 5 or 6 games, but just due to the bad design and so forth, they made a lot of money when they worked, but they didn't work that long. I mean, it's hard to find any of them today, surviving. And so Steve pieced out to Chicago, and he went to work at Williams, recruited by this guy named Mike Stroll, who was a kind of a charismatic leader in that era at Williams. And so he invited me to come out to Chicago and check it out, in like March of that year. And I was like, it was all, dusty, dirty industrial city,
What year is this we're talking about?
This is 79.
Oh, 79. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like, it was the rustable before it rusted. And coated in grease. And I remember the factory was like, still had the paint job from World War II, like this government green, kind of light green. And I was just, the whole city was, just piled up snow and everything. And I'm in California. I would go, I'm never going to come here ever. And then somehow 1 year later, I just said hell with it. And I just loved pinball too much. So I wanted to work with Steve and make some pins.
And that was at Williams. And how did we get from, you were there for like 20 years or something, right?
Quite a while, on and off.
Yeah.
So we worked on the first multi-ball electronic pin, Firepower. That was just a major success. And
what a great game! What a great game that was.
And it's kind of cool because today almost every game is a multi-ball. It's such a fun mode.
The one I remember is F-14 Tomcat. That was a personal favorite of mine. That had fun going all over the place.
Yeah, that was my last gasp in pinball. So I'll get to that. So after Firepower, it's like 1979, a little late. It's amazing how many things I did in like a year or something. Now I can't even like take a shit in a year. It's like, I mean, but,
that's a different podcast.
But got into, that's just when like the video hit 78, and Space Invaders was just huge. And I guess in Asteroids came maybe 79, and so it's just like, man, we got to do a video game, and so I really wanted, and partly maybe to get out of under the thumb of Steve Ritchie, who I loved working with him, but he had generally you only lasted like one game under him, as a programmer. He kind of bit off and chewed programmers up for lunch,
Yeah.
And but great guy though. And so I saw my chance to go and join, start a video team. And so that was Williams' first real video game other than like Pong clones.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had that was just an incredible project. Somehow it was just the blind leading the blind. None of us knew anything about video hardware or anything. And somehow we ended up making Defender. And that was, just beginner's luck or something. But anyway, that was huge. And then I met a kid named Larry DeMar, who was, I guess, helped me out in Defender a bit. And we decided, I don't know, I was kind of disappointed. Like my bonus was like 0. And so we quit and started this company called VidKids, which went on to do Robotron and a few other games. And then Stargate, which is a sequel to Defender. Mm-hmm. And then kind of the video crash hit, and we just it was like, okay, this shit is over, and it was like disco or the pet rock, it was over, man. And so it most like everybody either got laid off or quit, and we all kind of went our separate ways for a while. And I ended up going out to get my MBA out at Stanford on the West Coast, and get some more of that California weather.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I just couldn't shake that video bug, and I was always thinking about, we could do a new game, and there was all this cool new technology, and create a new hardware system that could do zillions of colors and write 10 screens in a 60th of a second and all these crazy things. So also we were talking about HD, which we did this game Narc, which is an HD game. A little early, too early for its time, but it did quite well. It's just a very expensive game. And we did some innovation in digital graphics and digitizing actors and all that stuff, which kind of laid the groundwork for some of the later Williams hits, like Smash TV and Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, all that stuff. So it was a great project. And then at about that time, at this point, Williams had bought Bally.
Okay.
So Bally Video they were at an amazing peak when they were building, 1,200 Pac-Mans a day and or 1,200 Miss Pac-Mans or whatever. And they had, things are just much tougher. And so they, I think, just decided they want to concentrate on casino.
Yeah.
And so we bought their pinball and video divisions of Midway and Bally. And so it became Williams Bally-Midway for a moment. Okay. And then I remember Neil DeCastro, who was running Williams Bally-Midway at the time, was like, well, you know what? We have to use the Midway name. We paid $5 million for this piece of shit company, so we're going to use their name. And it's like, and so it's like, it was kind of, we felt so defeated because like we were Williams and we had destroyed Bally, and now we had to take their name. And then to make it worse, they appointed the managers from Midway to be our supervisors. It's like, so it was kind of a take under rather than a take over. And
take under.
So anyway, I was I played. There was this game called Race Driving and Hard Driving. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
So that was this early 3D polygon driving games that Atari had made. They're really, really amazing, pioneering games. And I was like, man, this is like the future. We're going to be 3D texture mapping, all this stuff. So I decided to resign from Midway and actually took some of the hardware guys. And so we made a deal as a contractor kind of thing that we would develop this new 3D hardware system that eventually became Cruis'n USA and Cruis'n World and all those games of the 90s. And so it was pretty amazing. We had 6 guys and basically 2 hardware guys, 2 programmers, and 2 artists. And we developed, took us about 4 years to get this thing done, three or 4 years. We developed basically the equivalent of like a Sony PlayStation, actually more powerful than that, and did the game Cruis'n USA. And but unfortunately, we ran out of money, and so we ended up. Neil made a deal for us to come back and finish our game at Midway, and so then we were able to finish. So we came back to Williams again, or Midway,
Nice.
whatever the hell it was. And so that was the whole, Cruis'n USA, Cruis'n World, Cruis'n Exotica, like the trilogy of driving games, which was very, super satisfying project because I guess all put together, I think they did probably sold more games than Defender.
I bet. And you can find those machines on the street today.
Yeah, it's the board was just a bulletproof single board system. And I remember at the time, we were using DSPs, and it was an early, our own custom GPU, and it really was a very cost-effective design and fairly high performance. And Sega, I remember Sega Daytona, which was competing as
Mm-hmm.
you open up their hardware, which is kind of, I guess it was like in the base of the game or something. And there was like 7 boards there that were like, 2 feet by 2 feet. It was like, we're just like, oh my God, like, how do they ever get this thing working once, So yeah, that Cruis'n hardware system was just bulletproof. And I mean, it's crazy. It's been over 30 years, and some of them are still running out there, and random, pizza joints and
Totally right.
food courts and whatever. But that was a fun project, and we kind of made the segue to more casual, rather than the hardcore games I had been working on. It was kind of more casual everything games for kids and girls and men and women, and even little babies could play it, and just really, on their mother's lap, the little kid just sit there and steer the wheel. So it was really a fun project that kind of really opened up the driving game genre to a game that, I always thought like, hey, why don't they make a driving game where when you turn right, you actually turn right rather than like skidding into a rock or something. So we gave it a lot of traction, and you actually turned right, and when you turned right rather than, falling off a cliff. So.
Okay. So that was about what year did Cruis'n come out? Ballpark.
That was 94.
94. Shortly thereafter, you started Raw Thrills. How did we get there?
So that, unfortunately, Midway hit some really tough times.
Right.
I remember there was some questionable hires they made. Like their new engineering manager guy. It was almost like it's like they had like their most bitter competitor had like done their hiring for them. So,
oh no!
So they had like the worst possible people you could ever imagine being hired for key positions in the company. And it was just like, oh my God, this was like like sabotage, by hiring, and it was a complete disaster, and the market was it was an arcade company, and so they had some great success, moving the arcade IP into the home with Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam and Terminator 2, and obviously the Cruis'n series was launch titles on Nintendo, and just had amazing success there. But then the arcade business kind of was falling apart, and it was really hard coming up with any new hits in that era. I think that, the market was just getting saturated, and I think arcade, there's just more competition with consoles, and the hardcore players that were playing the fighting games and the sports games went over to the the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and some of the Sega platforms, and so it was very hard time. You must remember this, Randy. You were
There was an arcade on every corner. You just go grab a spot and call it an arcade. Yeah, there was way too many of them.
Yeah, and it was so we had a great boom. I mean, it was kind of like a second boom there in the 90s.
Right.
And but then again, kind of a saturated market and really big competition. Like, why play Mortal Kombat for $10 an hour when you could just buy the cartridge for $20 and and that's it. And I think,
and it seems at that point in time the experience was pretty similar.
Exactly.
It was no longer a downgraded experience. It was about the same experience.
Exactly. And I think also you had the birth of online internet linking, and then the first person shooter genre was huge. The, massive multiplayer RPGs, online RPGs. There was just all these great titles and, social games. I'm eventually like Farmville and, all these crazy titles started, just competing for players with the arcade. Right. And so really the arcade, was dying in many ways. And so it was a tough time, when the problem is when places start closing, then there's more games coming into the market, and if you're trying to make or sell games and you're competing with all this used equipment that's, very economical, I mean, it gets very hard, and locations are decreasing. It's like an inverse, it's a vicious cycle. So Midway ended up, going bankrupt eventually. And so the arcade division, I think, was shut down in 2000.
So the biggest manufacturer in the industry goes under, and there's arcades are declining, and you say, "Hey guys, I got an idea. let's manufacture video games."
That was it's funny. So a few of us, survivors from Midway. I think, and when the industry goes through these cataclysmic contortions of these great crashes, most people are just like, they go, I'm done with games, and they get a normal job somewhere, and we'd always like, oh man, that poor guy, he got a real job. It's like we're so lucky to be in games, man, but we were all unemployed at that point. So, we faced the specter of having to get a real job.
Oh, no.
We couldn't do it. So we decided to start Raw Thrills. And we didn't come up with a name for, I don't know, maybe a year or something. But the initial idea was we were actually going to make some kind of a consumer game, because the arcade was dead, and we wanted to make, had a vision that was kind of an open world, kind of Grand Theft Auto kind of thing, And so that was the original vision. And we kind of messed around for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And we did get a contract with IGT to do a couple of poker games, and some casino stuff. And so we we're able to make a little bit of money trying to fund our other project. But it's amazing when you start running out of money, your mind becomes very focused. And instead of this kind of do everything and be everything game, it was kind of like got really focused. Like, okay, what do we, we don't have a lot of money left. What do we know how to do? And like, well, the only thing we know how to do is arcade games. And we really don't know anything about home games or console games or PC games. So we said, okay, let's do a arcade game. And we're thinking, well, Midway, when they shut down arcade, I think they did $90 million that year. in arcade games, and they shut it down because it wasn't good enough. And we were like, well, if we could do like 3 million, we only had like, 5 guys to pay. So maybe, 1 million, was something, there must be something left out there, and I guess at the time we noticed that Betson and Mark Strews, who was the sales manager from Midway, were reissuing some of the old Cruis'n games. And they were selling, I don't know, they sold maybe 4,000 or 5,000 of those. And we got, wow, if they're still selling that crap, then maybe we can make a new game. And so that kind of gave us a little bit of hope that there was a market out there. And so we decided to get a little more focused, and so this was kind of an odd strategy. It doesn't make much sense right now, but we decided to do a very quick gun game. We figured we could finish that before our money ran out in like a year, and then we could use that money to finish the driving game. It's almost like John DeLorean. I remember when he was like selling cocaine to try to bail out his car company or something.
He didn't do that though.
Yeah, at least we weren't getting it. It wasn't that bad. But so we and this was the whole 9/11 thing. This was had hit. I guess that was 2001 or something, right? Okay. It was 9/11. All that hysteria. I remember the like there was some mayor in like downstate Illinois, like, I need, federal security, like there could be terrorists in my town here, and just like people were getting like kind of crazy because it was just such a shocking and terrifying thing. So we decided kind of to do, and this is, I don't know, in hindsight was maybe not the most sensitive thing of it, but we decided to have a, kind of a Rambo-esque kind of game where, America fights back and, defeats the terrorists, and it's like kind of going with everybody's nightmare scenario where the terrorists are attacking, the airports, and they're attacking the Golden Gate Bridge, and they're attacking, the Statue of Liberty and hijacking more planes. And so that was the birth of Target Terror, and which was very kind of inspired by the Area 51 games from the 90s. Atari had Area 51 and Max Force, where again, it used that digitization process. So it was really cool where, you could really, I thought it was really fun working with human actors, which, we hadn't done since the NARC days. And it was really cool to, you get all the expression, like have them die, and, grab their nuts and die or something. And so it was like very, just like so much emotion and everything, where a lot of at that era, the 3D animation was very kind of stiff and robotic, and here we could have, and they could be wearing a coat that's flying, and, and have really interesting clothes on that show a lot of texture and wrinkles and stuff. And so it was a very realistic looking medium, just going with and this was, we're now able to use higher resolution cameras and do some cool green screen technology. And so that, that kind of was the cool thing about Target Terror. And we could have like, 7, like a person could have like 8 different death scenes, like you fall over this way, you fall over that way, depending on where you got hit by the bullet or, whatever. So it was all kinds of variety and fun, and lots of explosions and body parts and all those good things. And maybe not body parts. Maybe that was an arc. Anyway. But
I remember those days.
But so that was a fun game, and so we ripped that out in like 6 months, and we're able to get some money to finish up the driving game, which at that point we had focused in on doing a street racing game, and kind of inspired by the Fast and Furious movies. I guess there had only been one movie at that point. And we tried to get the license, but I think when they heard the name of our company, like Raw Thrills, they were like, yeah, we don't do porn, So it's like, so we kind of like,
oh, that's some funny stuff.
So we called it Hot Cars Street Racing was the working title. And it was kind of like, Hot Wheels, but, hot cars and, whatever. Anyway, and so we'd work on the game, and it was getting pretty fun, and people would, come by and play it. And I'd explain it to them, and they go, oh, yeah, it's like Fast and Furious, and everybody kept on going, it's like, no, it's Hot Cars Street Racing. It's like, and so we just had a stroke of luck, and a good friend of mine, Joe Kamenko, who was working at IGT at the time in the gaming business and doing some really great work there. And he, through his contacts with licensing, he said, look, I could get you a license for Fast and Furious. And we were like, what? And I guess somehow, Sega and Namco had somehow passed on it. And I guess there was like the first movie came out, and there was quite a long lag time. And I think maybe they just thought it was dead or something. Mm-hmm. But somehow we were able to, everybody had passed on it, and Joe was able to convince him that Raw Thrills was not a porno company. And so we were able to get the Fast and Furious license. And so that was the Fast and Furious.
And what version of Fast and Furious are we on? I can't even keep track.
We're on like 3 or 4, of us. But I think the movie, it's like 10 or 11, I think.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah. What a franchise.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. And so luckily with that, we had 2 pretty good games, and that paid off all our debts, and we were able to continue on, and
well, let's give a shout out to your partners. You co-founded Raw Thrills with Andy and Deepak, right?
Yeah.
They're both still with you, and
they actually Deepak retired a while back.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was the only smart guy in the company. But
hey, that's hitting a little close to home now. Come on.
But those guys, it's funny. We were thinking about starting. I think it was their idea to start a company, actually, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to make this mistake again. I'm done with this fucking industry. This is, I've had enough, and somehow they conned me into starting this company. And I remember, like a month into it, I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know. You ever get those like middle of the night, like you woke up and like, what the fuck am I doing? and
that hadn't happened to me since Monday.
and so that was, I was just like, oh my God, but it was like too late. I think we'd already started the company, and, and we were like working in my basement at the time, and, looking for an office. And I was just like, oh God, but, it's like, it's almost like, a marriage, when you're engaged and they have all these weddings and all this crap, and it's like the whole momentum of the thing, like you're locked in, even though you're not, like there's just so many ties, and, your mom and this, that, and the other, and you're just like, okay, this is on rails here, and so I felt like, same kind of thing, as the Bachelor getting cold feet, but it was like, you know what, we're doing this. So there was and I'm still, I haven't got off that train yet. So it's been.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do I want to bring up here? I found it interesting, just doing a little research. You get very high praise for your management style, and you're an engineer, you're a software designer. People love working for you. The quote I really love is, one of the most genuinely happy, generous people I have ever met. What's your secret?
I don't know. Sometimes I think you really have to have a Jekyll Hyde to really be effective. You can't be happy all the time.
Yeah.
I think I think that probably these days maybe I'm leaning, it's a good conflict avoidance thing. it's, it's like everything's great and fine, and but you do have to, you really have to tell, you have to, it's like when you love somebody, you have to tell them when they're wrong, like love is not just everything's beautiful and we're all, we have to, if we're on the road to hell, you have to really speak up, and so that's a hard thing. I think a lot of people have problems with that, conflict avoidance. But if you have true love for people, you have to, if things need to be fixed, you need to let them know. But yeah, I love working with both the veteran guys. We have guys actually from, we still have a few guys from Cruis'n USA working with us.
Oh wow!
And which is kind of cool. And we have, and we have some young guys and new grads and old guys, and it's a good mix. I think you need that mix of, the older you get, everything that fails, and then when you're young, everything can be done, and so you need a little bit, of the combination of the two. You can't have boundless optimism. You have to have some reality, but you can't have excess reality to, just not want to try anything new. So, it's a tough business, but it's a fun business. I think what's fun is you're always working on something new, because your games always die, and, they have a certain lifetime, and you almost have to reinvent the company every few years, and so that makes it very interesting, but also it makes it probably fairly stressful sometimes. And
yeah, you have to take high risks every day.
Yeah, and you have to make the risk, but if you don't take the risk, you don't get the reward. So it's somehow we've survived, and it's been that's what shocked me is that this company has been going for 25 years. And, from that whole cataclysm of the early 2000s, we, as an industry, kind of went back to our roots, really, and family entertainment, kids, being very kid-centric, and, I guess kids of all ages. It seems like nobody wants to grow up, which is great for us. It's like
people's socialization is genetic. People want to get out.
Yeah, and
look at the bowling center industry. They've reinvented themselves, and you can't get a lane on Friday night. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I think part of it's just the phone. You want to get, people want to get away from their phones and just lose themselves somewhere, other than the scroll, the death scroll, and I think that's. And it is kind of interesting where the phone is, we spend so much time looking at this little thing. And so we get into an arcade and we see all these gigantic screens and games and stuff. And it's kind of magical for somebody who's been looking at a 5-inch screen for all day long. And I was like, oh my God, look at that. And we just trying to bring magic and excitement to people. And I mean, it's the best job in the world if you can hang in there,
So a segue into your comment about the games are gigantic. Let's talk about Stranger Things for a minute.
Okay.
Which is bigger than my first house. How big can these things get? I mean, there's like 4 locations in American Fets. I know that.
Well, we're that one is a bit extreme. We wanted, a lot of these arcades, they love the socialization, and they want to have a game where 3 or 4 people can get together and have a blast, and so it's kind of running off of that. And we we decided just for a change of pace and kind of fun thing is to have the balls, throwing the balls rather than shooting, a electronic controller, and I think people really love it. They love the. It's kind of that physical interaction. That's the other thing of the arcade is it's the interface of physical and video, and so you get like people love that. They want to have some physical element. Again, they're sitting at touch screens and keyboards all day long. And so I think it's kind of fun. So you can get out there, actually maybe get a little exercise. I mean, God forbid it, and have some fun with it, with a crazy game like Stranger Things. And so it is there's nothing guaranteed in this world, and
Right.
that's people. It's funny. People ask me like, what did I learn from, I guess I've been in the business 40 almost 50 years. I guess like 49 years I've been in this business, 49 and a half years. And I'm like, what the hell did you, what's your wisdom out of this thing? And I finally the only thing I can say is the one thing I learned is I don't know shit. It's like, and because it's always, there'll be some hot new game and I'll hear about it like, that's stupid, and then you go over there and like, it's the hottest thing ever, and nobody has all the answers, it's that's what the world is. We all have our different perspectives and different ideas and different places we're coming from. And so that's kind of the beauty of the arcade, is you're getting the best of the best,
Mm-hmm.
and all the, probably for every game in an arcade, there's, 10 that never went anywhere, maybe more, and so you're not seeing all the crap games that fail, you're seeing just the best, and I think that's why that makes the experience so enjoyable.
I think you just bring up a really good point, being a lifelong operator and you see the high cost of these games. We forget that I not only have to pay for that game, I got to help you pay off the 9 failures that preceded it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I can't really charge you for that. So
I know. Well, it's in there. It's in there. It's in there somewhere.
Right. So you have to you got to make your hay on the good game. It's like, But it's unfortunately an issue in the industry.
Yeah, well, that's really good insight. I didn't really think about how many didn't work. So that's interesting.
Yeah, we don't think too much about that either. We don't dwell on that. It's like moving on.
I bet Andy does.
Moving on, you gotta move right along. Don't talk. They don't exist. Like a bomb game no longer exists. It's like, and anybody associated with it is somehow tainted.
I say the same thing about my first marriage.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. We're wrapping up here, but I got a couple things I still want to talk about.
Okay.
See, you're a highly decorated guy in the industry. How do you like the limelight? You were inducted into you were the New York Operators Hall of Fame in 2009. You're in the Industry Hall of Fame, and just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Is that how do you feel about that?
I'm still waiting for my free dinner or something. They
didn't even buy you free. Pete didn't buy you a free drink.
No, he sends me the bill. But and I'm glad to have a good party, and celebrate things, Yeah, I think that's funny. It's it's the most important thing to us, but out in the world, I don't really have to worry about people recognizing me or anything. Every now and then, like if I'm out in an arcade show or something, it's fun to meet people. So they have this big show up in Milwaukee, the Midwest Gaming Classic, in the spring. I think it was just a few weeks ago. And I always go up there and give talks, and you meet a lot of young players and crazy, the game crazy people, the collectors and a lot of crazy little kids. And
we just call them customers.
Exactly. We always like, you actually think this is, we're always like, we're thinking like, these games, I mean, back in the 80s, if the game was 6 months old, you just burned it, right? I mean, because you got a new one that's going to make 10 times the money now, so it was just firewood. We used to just call it firewood. But, these people that actually collect all these, some of the most horrible failure games, actually, they're worth the money now because they're so rare. So I wish I kept some of these bombs. It's like,
well, there were, related to that, there were so many Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man out there. I mean, at the end of the run, which was 1990 or so, we're scrapping those things. How I wish I had those today. Oh my goodness gracious. Talk about machines that are worth a lot of money.
Yeah, that's but just the storage costs and if you try to, I have a bunch of old games downstairs, and every time you turn one on, after 6 months, it's like, whoops, this one, what happened to the IO? Like, it's always something like you gotta clean out the contacts, and they are a pain in the ass to keep going. You get kind of you get to see with the job of the operator, like, why did we put this stupid connector in this thing? Like, we should have put all this stuff on one board so we didn't have, connector problems. And I mean, it's terrible when you're the maintenance man of your own designs,
Who do you complain to?
Right, exactly. I just realized, like, we saved $5 by doing that. Like, and you made the game fail. It's like, but we do try. We try to make these days. I think it's super important to make a reliable product. With the cost of labor and just the service call. Just the downtime. And so many arcades and street arcades, they don't have a tech on duty. So that's something I think the industry needs to work on is uptime and reliability. And I know we try really hard to do that.
I know you do. I've heard that the real priority for you, reliability. You're thinking about that street operator. So on behalf of all street operators, thank you for that, because your machines do work more often than not. Hey, what do you do when you're not working? What kind of hobbies? Tell me about your personal life. And
well, I like to. The one thing I don't want to do is sit by a computer.
Yeah, I bet.
And try to avoid my cell phone as much as I can. And I love just trying to get outside, and I love bike riding. I love like hiking in the woods, canoeing. It's like in the summer season in the Chicago area, there's so many, there's the Chicago River, which, they don't have too many floating bodies anymore. It's pretty good. And like Michigan is beautiful, although you got to watch out in a canoe because the waves can really knock you out if you aren't careful, man. You're going to be swimming in pretty cold water. But I love, just kind of getting outside, and I even, I'm like out in the yard, trying to whack back the whatever plague is attacking my not so well maintained situation. And there's always some new invasive species or something that, like, I know this spring for some reason, like, I had all these cattails growing in my backyard. Like, there were like a couple of years, there was like one or two, like, wow, that's really quaint. There's a cattail. Now there's like 30. I'm like, oh my God. It's like a plague of cattails. And, it's always trying to keep my wife, to, pacify. It's like the jungle, have to pacify the jungle. And my son Nate is a faithful, helper and lawnmower and brush whacker. So that's kind of fun too. I mean, when you're sitting in the office all day, going in the yard and whacking some trees down, and I kind of into chainsaws a little bit. There's something about dropping a 30-foot tree. Just got to get out of the way.
That's pretty funny.
But so it's I love just getting outside. Any kind of thing outside is what I try to do, because I sit at a desk all day long.
Well, so what's the Raw Thrill future look like 5-10 years from now?
I'm been in it a long time. So I guess I gotta actually start thinking about getting replacing myself at some point. And that's it's a scary thought. Scary and maybe good at the same time, but that's I think it's really tough. In this industry is so specialized, and a lot of the companies, they're smaller companies. They're run by, a family or, a couple of guys or very, charismatic guy like Jersey Jack or something. And obviously Nolan Bushnell was one time Atari was a small coin-op company.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting. It's very kind of artisanal. I go see it's like a big restaurant, instead of making food, you're making games, and so you have to play the games, see how the broth tastes, and add a little salt here, some MSG, don't tell anybody, and so it's a very personal endeavor, and but obviously we all face mortality, and so it's kind of a struggle right now for me. But I realize intellectually we need to start thinking about bringing on something. And I know Gary Stern has brought on Seth, and had great success there. And so it obviously can be done. You just have to spend the time and find the right people. But sometimes you just feel you're on this treadmill, and you're just barely keeping the ship afloat, and then you have to find a new captain at the same time. It's a tough thing, but it's something I had to face up to, at that point.
Well, biologically, you're a young man and a lot of energy, so you've got some time to figure all that out.
I hope so.
So what have I forgot to ask that you want to tell your faithful replay readers, which will probably be 400 or 500 people?
It could be probably the best attended podcast I've ever done.
It could be. People, these podcasters measure their success. Yeah, I interviewed Nolan Bushnell, and you look on YouTube and it has like 50,000 views or something. I said, Nolan, there's like 300 or 400 people see this, so don't get nervous.
Yeah, you always worry about the career-ending tweet or something. You say the wrong thing. It seems like maybe people are a little more understanding these days. I don't know, but
any closing thoughts, comments? You want to share?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say just from one coin-op arcade lifer to another. I think we do have the best job in the universe, and sometimes it is a hell of a lot of work trying to keep on that surfboard, and and try to get the waves and not get watch out for the sharks,
Totally.
And so you get you can get distracted by all those struggles and everything, but I think it's take some time off every now and then just to be thankful for all the wonderful people we've met, and all the kids that we've brought joy to, and of all ages, and just be thankful that we're all here to have be in the best industry ever.
Wow, what a great way to bring this podcast home. Well, this is certainly the highlight of my month every time I get to talk to somebody like you, and this has been more fun than I expected. So thanks for your colorful stories, and it's our first PG-rated podcast, however.
I know. Yeah, you could. I mean, if you want to bleep that stuff, don't.
Heck no, man.
Don't worry, man. Probably save me some embarrassment if my mother watches this.
Well, hey, I thank you for your time, and just really enjoyed chatting with you. I know we've spent some time together socially, but this is special for me. So thanks for accepting the invitation and sharing some great stories.
Thank you, Randy, and thanks for your pursuit of the truth. And you might even have a better job than I do. You get to talk to all these guys and have fun with them. So.
Well, the only problem with this particular job, it doesn't pay.
It doesn't pay. Well, it is. It's like the more fun you're having, the less money you're working. Is that interesting?
Hey, if you love what you're doing, it's not work, and this is a lot of fun.
If they're paying you a lot of money, it's probably because you're enduring a lot of pain.
Oh, that hits home. All right. Well, thank you, Eugene. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for inviting me on. It's
All
been
right, talk
a
soon.
blast. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Game over.